Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 10th, 2025 meeting of the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners. Before we begin, I'd like to announce that this board met in executive session regarding a personnel-related matter. We'll begin the meeting with a roll call. Mr. Berman, can you please take the roll?
Commissioner Gondek.
Present.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Here.
Commissioner Cavender.
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Commissioner McCollum.
Here.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Here.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Here. Thank you. I ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Chief Hagan.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. To start tonight's meeting, we'll hear a presentation of a proclamation for Women's History Month, read by Commissioner Laura Cavender. Commissioner Cavender, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Trombetta. I'm going to read a proclamation recognizing March as Women's History Month in Haverford Township. Whereas born from the movement for equal access to jobs and education, Women's History Month has been observed across the United States since the 1980s. Providing an opportunity to honor the remarkable achievements and lasting contributions of women throughout history. And whereas throughout our nation's history, women have continued to blaze trails for future generations of women and girls, often in the face of adversity and with inadequate recognition for their work. And whereas efforts of women throughout history have strengthened the U.S. economy and have led to advancements in science, mathematics, medicine, the arts, and human rights. And whereas, throughout Haverford Township's history, women have been essential to enriching our community, shaping its social, economic, and cultural fabric through dedicated service in education, public safety, governance, and beyond. And whereas, recognizing that the current female commissioners stand on the shoulders of the pioneering women who came before, Haverford Township proudly recognizes the extraordinary legacy of its women leaders, beginning with 4th Ward Commissioner Edith Hannum, the first woman ever elected as a township commissioner in Pennsylvania, who served our community for 47 years and was a founder and the first director of the Haverford Township Free Library. And whereas we further honor the service and dedication of women commissioners, Joan Genthert, Mary March, Carol McDonald, Carolyn Parker, Jan Marie Rushforth, and Jane Hall, whose contributions have been instrumental in advancing the values of community, progress, and inclusivity. Now therefore be it resolved that the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, do hereby proclaim the month of March as Women's History Month in Haverford Township. And be it further resolved that the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners celebrates the legacy of women whose leadership and service have driven progress and prosperity and reaffirms its commitment to advancing equality and opportunity for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll now move on to our citizens forum portion of our meeting. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to share their remarks. We'll begin with individuals who signed up in advance. And during this portion, we also welcome comments on agenda items. If you wish to speak about a matter not on tonight's agenda, you will have the opportunity to do so during the second citizens forum portion of this meeting. Please use your 3 minutes to make your remarks. While this is not a question and answer session, you're encouraged to mention any specific questions you have. Commissioners will have the opportunity to respond to any matters raised after all speakers have been heard. For follow-up individual concerns or questions, I encourage you to connect with your commissioner or the township manager at the conclusion of this meeting, or to reach out to them via email or phone. With that, I do not believe we have any registered speakers this evening, so I'll open up the floor here to see if anybody'd like to speak. Starting on the left-hand side.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am rising to thank the board for its proclamation acknowledging the importance of Women's History Month. And I would like to read a brief statement in support of that proclamation from my mother, Victoria Brown, who could not be here tonight. My mom is a historian. She's a former chair of the history department of Grinnell College. She taught American women's history for 40 years. And she named me after Elizabeth Cady Stanton, one of the leaders of the women's suffrage movement. Google can remove Women's History Month from its automated calendar, but neither Google nor the US government can remove women's history from our lives. Women's history tells us of the female citizens who fought for 75 years, for 3 generations, to exercise their constitutional right to vote. Women's history tells us that states could prevent women from becoming lawyers until 1971. They could prevent women from serving on juries until 1974. Women's history tells us it was perfectly legal to pay a woman less than a man for the same job until 1963. It was legal to fire a woman for being pregnant until 1978. No woman could obtain a credit card without a male cosigner until 1974. And rape by a husband was not a crime in every state until 1993. Women's history tells us about women's actual lives. It tells us how far we have come so we can chart where we want to go. Women's history tells us about the energy and persistence of countless sisters, mothers, daughters, wives, nanas, who have organized and fought for their right as American citizens to control their own lives. Women's history gives us strength and courage. And anyone who tries to smother our knowledge of women's history has one aim: to undermine the inspiration that we might take from those who came before us. Women's history deniers don't want Americans to know that it is possible in a democracy ruled by laws to fight for equity and win.
Thank you. Are there other members? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Dory Dowdy. I live in the 6th Ward, and I'm here as a concerned citizen who's lived in Haverford Township for over 35 years. I'm requesting on the agenda this evening the resolution 2246-2025 Township Support of Ukraine be struck from tonight's agenda and not be voted on in this evening's meeting, as a few reasons. It was not listed in last week's working session agenda on March 3rd, 2025, and should be disqualified from being voted on this evening. And the second reason I have here, isn't this quite redundant from the already passed resolution of February 14th, 2022, the resolution number 2258, 2022, Haverford Township stands alongside Ukraine. Does this really need to be stated again? And this is an international issue, another reason that I'm not really quite sure why we're doing this. In my opinion, it's quite inappropriate for our township to be announcing a resolution as though the entire township feels this way. This is a hotly contested issue, and this resolution can only exacerbate a rift between constituents that already exists. This divisive issue also has nothing at all to do with our township, our constituents, and a multitude of issues that we need to address right here in our own backyard, unless there's some other purpose for this resolution besides virtue signaling, which I'd really like to know. As an aside, I'm half Ukrainian, and my family is for a peaceful resolution of this conflict and not continue with any more of the warring. Instead, I'd like to respectfully request that we focus our attentions, or your attentions, on some of the more pressing issues that have been voiced many times regarding vehicular congestion, flooding, and the increasing crime that we experience, and perhaps even a more open, two-way, transparent communication with residents regarding aspects of the latest comprehensive plan and its plans to rewrite the zoning ordinances in our township from use-based zoning to form-based or design-based zoning. We need to have an explanation in detail as to what this will mean to our home values, to our neighborhoods, and to our township as a whole. And lastly, I'd like to request a resumption of the monthly ward commissioners meetings that were held prior to the pandemic that would allow constituents to have an interactive forum for ideas, suggestions, questions, and a back and forth dialogue to occur. The current way of one-way communication, as me getting up here right now to give you 3 minutes, if that's what it is, or if I'm lucky enough to come up again for another 3 minutes, for 6 minutes, for me to talk a one-way direction to all of you once a month, it doesn't seem to really be cutting it. So I really would like to see that come about. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Lee.
Hi, my name is Michael Lee. I'm also a Haverford Township resident. I have the same question about the Ukraine resolution, because last week we didn't see the resolution itself until tonight. Now, I thought we were supposed to see it the week in advance. I know that Commissioner Foster-Grupp mentioned it towards the end in the meetings, but it's something that we should all see before we vote on it. So I'm requesting that you postpone it until next month to vote on it, because we just haven't seen it. The other thing is, I agree wholeheartedly with the speaker before me that there's plenty of really pressing things that we need to talk about, like form-based zoning. That is such a huge change for residents. And we really need to talk about those things too. So I'm hoping we have more back and forth. And the monthly meetings is a great plan. We had that prior to COVID. Every month I would meet with my commissioner. We haven't had that since then. And it does feel like there's not communication in the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Amder? I'll get to you, Mr. Hall. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Amder. I live in the 3rd Ward. I've been a resident for 29 years. I wanted to speak tonight in support of the resolution to condemn Russia. I think that countries invading other countries is a bad idea, as I think we all do. I think that we can walk and chew gum at the same time and deal with zoning and flooding and also humanity. And I think if we were in this position and someone invaded us, we would want someone else to stand up for us. It doesn't take a lot to say, we see you and we think you should stay in your own country. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw Mr. Hall's hand up next.
Good evening, Todd Hall. I'm in the 2nd Ward. Tonight, the Board of Commissioners for this local township will be voting on a resolution regarding support for Ukraine. This is not in the purview of Haverford Township, and it's an agenda item outside of the scope of its duties. I do understand we don't live in a vacuum. Occasional mentions of world events are appreciated, such as when we had a moment of silence for the victims of the October 7th terrorist event in Israel. I also have no concern of commissioners using the section at the end of the meeting to share anything that's on their mind, even if it is world or national events. My views evolved on this. Freedom of speech is important. My resolve to this was strengthened because of the actions of another governing body in the township. A school district of Haverford Township board member used the open floor time at the end to discuss concerns within the district. The response of the board was to change the format of the meeting. Sometimes simplicity is best. I read here from the book, When You Grow Up to Vote, a children's book, and I do not read it to insult anyone's intelligence. I just think sometimes it's easy to use a book like that to reinforce a simple and clear point. From the book, it's a big job to run a city. To make sure that the buildings are safe, the streets are paved, the traffic signals are working, the trees trimmed. Those are the types of activities that are for Haverford Township. The resolution calls for a letter to be sent to our Commonwealth and federal officials, even though this is not in the Commonwealth's purview either. While I understand that the weight of the local government is part of the process, I remind that any citizen can write the President of the United States. As an example, I sent the last president a brief, polite, and respectful happy retirement card, and I received a letter back in response. Speaking of former presidents, we had another former president who mentioned the optics did not look good when he was involved in a situation involving the timing of his leisure and an international event. That's what's going on here. The resolution does not take up much township resources, but I think it sends a message causing citizens to question the focus of the Board of Commissioners. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Anyone else on the left-hand side? Hearing none, we'll move to the right-hand side. Anybody wish to comment on an agenda item this evening? All right. Thank you to everyone who took the... Oh, I'm sorry.
Major Ross Peterson, United States Army, retired, 4th Ward. Reading something from the Declaration of Independence. I think that was a founding document of our country. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Haven't really gone through the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution all that thoroughly. But my belief is the important part deals with equality. That's what I hear, equality. I don't see the word equity mentioned at all. So let's get rid of equity. Let's get back to equality, our founding documents. I think we'd all live better if we adhered to those founding documents instead of today's progressive, liberal ideologues with no common sense. Plinks, P-L-I-N-C-S. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from individuals on the right-hand side? Thank you, everyone, who took the time to participate in public comment this evening. Your input is valuable, and at this time, I'd like to just open the floor to my colleagues on the board for any responses or remarks regarding matters raised during the Citizens Forum. Hearing none, I'll move on. At this time, I'd like to invite our chair of the Commissioners' Fire Committee, Commissioner Gondek, to share this month's Bureau of Fire update. Commissioner Gondek, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Madam President, the Haverford Township Bureau of Fire report for February 2025. We had total incidents, 67, 49 were township incidents, and 18 were out of township mutual aid incidents. The average personnel per call was 18. We had 827 personnel hours committed to incidents and 872 personnel hours committed to training. The Haverford Township Bureau of Fire provided mutual aid to 5 working fires within Delaware County and 1 working fire within Lower Merion Township. Oakmont Fire Company Ladder 38, with a crew of 7 firefighters, aided at the scene of the multi-alarm fire at SPS in Abington Township, and the crew was on scene for 7 hours, assisting in that particular matter. I would also just note that I know it was announced earlier, but just to reiterate, every 5 years, I believe it is, our township gets evaluated for our fire insurance rating that affects all homeowners in the township. And that rating is directly reflected on, among other things, the skill, the training, the equipment, and the personnel of our volunteer fire companies. And I'm happy to say that our rating actually improved in terms of the scale that they use, which directly reflects on the cost that gets passed along to every homeowner who has homeowners insurance in Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments related to Commissioner Gondek's report?
I do it and just not let that pass. As Mr. Gondek mentioned, and our fire departments deserve a lot of credit because they took note of it a few years ago and took necessary and proper steps to increase that, which benefits all of us in the township. So thank you to all the members of the fire department for all the hard work that they did to achieve that ranking.
Any further questions or comments? And at this time, I'd like to invite our Township Auditor, Mr. Ross Anderson, to share his monthly report.
I reviewed the warrants and expenditures for this meeting and found no irregularities, and all my questions were answered to my satisfaction. In case you're wondering, I've been busy signing, getting petitions signed, getting turned in, so I have no time to write any jokes or any more content.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board? At this time, I'd like to invite our Township Manager, Dave Berman, to provide his update this month.
SEPTA recently began a project to repair the stream bank along the Route 103, the busway that goes through between Belmont Avenue and County Line Road. They today, in fact, ran into some sort of sinkhole in that area, and so they'll be working this evening a little bit later. It will be noisy, Commissioner Holmes, so your constituents are going to hear some noise out there this evening. But the project overall is expected to last about 4 weeks, and for that time frame, the busway will be closed and the buses will be rerouted. And there's a paper shredding event on March 29th at 8 a.m., and that goes until 11 a.m. or until the truck is full, which it usually fills up before 11 a.m., so highly suggest you get there early. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to the approval of our meeting minutes.
Yes, I move to approve the meeting minutes of February 10th. Second.
So motion and a second. Are there any questions, comments, additions, deletions requested by my colleagues? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondek?
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb?
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum?
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey?
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta?
Yes. Motion carries. We now move on to the approval of warrants. I'll now entertain a motion.
Madam President,
Commissioner Holmes.
I move we approve warrant number 3 of 2025, totaling $4,706,708.32, comprising the general and sewer fund payroll for February 13th, 2025, in the amount of $790,096.61, the general and sewer fund payroll for February 27th of 2025, in the amount of $918,468.52, general fund disbursements in the amount of $1,528,119.75. Sewer fund disbursements in the amount of $155,114.88. Community Development Block Grant Fund disbursement in the amount of $35,823.04. The Capital Projects Fund disbursements in the amount of $979,135.08. American Rescue Plan Fund disbursements in the amount of $283,909.91, and a credit card statement ending February 27th of 2025 in the amount of $16,040.53.
Second. Heard a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board?
Madam President, our auditor has been through these, and any questions he had have been raised to and adequately answered by our township staff. He recommends we adopt these warrants, as do I.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondek?
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb?
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hart?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum?
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey?
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta?
Yes. Motion carries. We'll now move on to appointments to our various boards and commissions, beginning with the appointments to the Crossroads Figure Skating Club Board of Directors. I'll now entertain a motion.
Madam President, I motion to appoint Christine Seawagon to the Crossroads Figure Skating Club Board of Directors for a term to commence on March 11th, 2025 and to expire June 30th of 2026.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. The motion's now open for discussion. Are there any other nominations, questions, comments? Would anybody like to close?
Close nominations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We've heard a motion to close. All those in favor of saying aye, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it. Mr. Berman, can you please take the roll?
Commissioner Gondek?
Christine Seawagon.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb?
Christine Seawagon.
Commissioner Cavender?
Christine
Commissioner Holmes,
Ms. Seawagon.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hart,
Christine Seawagon.
Commissioner McCullum,
Christine Seawagon.
Commissioner McCluskey,
Christine Seawagon.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Christine Seawagon. Congratulations to Ms. Seawagon, and thank you. I'll now entertain another motion to appoint someone to the Crossroads Figure Skating Club.
Motion to appoint Cassandra Latsios to the Crossroads Figure Skating Club Board of Directors for a term to commence March 11th, 2025.
Second.
Sorry.
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion to close and a second. Are there, all those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Mr. Berman, will you please take the roll?
Commissioner Gondek,
Cassandra Latsios.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb,
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender,
Cassandra Latsios.
Commissioner Holmes,
Ms. Latsios.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hart,
Ms. Latios.
Commissioner McCullum,
Cassandra Latsios.
Commissioner McCluskey,
Ms. Latsios.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Sandra Latsios. Congratulations, Ms. Latsios. Now entertain another motion to appoint someone to the Crossroads Figure Skating Club Board of Directors.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Forresty Grubb.
motion to appoint Sarah Rochette to the Crossroads Figure Skating Club Board of Directors for a term to commence on March 11th, 2025, and to expire on June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Motion to close.
Second.
Thank you. I've heard a motion to close. All those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it. Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondek,
Sarah Rochette.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb,
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender,
Sarah Rochette.
Commissioner Holmes,
Rochette.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hart,
Ms. Rochette.
Commissioner McCullum,
Sarah Rochette.
Commissioner McCluskey,
Sarah Rochette.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Sarah Rochette. Congratulations, Ms. Rochette. I'll now entertain a motion to appoint someone to the Friends of the Grange Board.
Motion to appoint Lisa Marie Camacho to the Friends of the Grange for a term to commence March 11th, 2025, and to expire December 31st, 2026.
Second.
Heard a motion, a second, open for discussion.
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion to close and a second. All those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it. Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondek,
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb,
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes,
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hart,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum,
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey,
Ms. Camacho.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Ms. Camacho, congratulations. I'll now entertain a motion to appoint someone to the Human Relations Commission.
Motion to appoint Sylvan Hurwitz to the Human Relations Commission for a term to commence March 11th, 2025, and to expire on December 31st, 2027.
Second.
Heard a motion, a second. Any other nominations?
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it. Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondek,
Sylvan Hurwitz.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb,
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender,
Mr. Hurwitz.
Commissioner Holmes,
Sylvan Hurwitz.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hart,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum,
Sylvan Hurwitz.
Commissioner McCluskey,
Sylvan Hurwitz.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Mr. Hurwitz, congratulations. Now take a motion to appoint someone to the Health Advisory Board.
Madam President, motion to table. The Health Advisory Board is is reorganizing. I think it would be better to await the reorganization before we appoint anyone.
I'll second that.
Heard a motion and a second. Motion to table is now open for discussion. Are there any comments or questions related to that motion? There's no further discussion. We'll move to a vote on the motion to table. All those in favor of tabling, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. I'll now entertain a motion to appoint a Planning Commission representative to the Historical Commission.
Motion to appoint Kimberly Juzik, a Planning Commission representative to Historical Commission for a term to commence March 11th, 2025 and expire December 31st, 2025.
Second.
Sure, I apologize.
Heard a motion and a second. The motion is now open for discussion. Any other nominations, questions, or comments?
Motion to close.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it. Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Ms.
Commissioner
Juzak.
Holmes. Sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Kimberly Juzak.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Ms. Juzak.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Kimberly Juzak, congratulations. Thank you. All right, the board will now consider 3 ordinances this evening, starting with the second reading of ordinance number 3012-2025. This is the Stadium Shop Lease Agreement. I'll now entertain a motion.
Madam President, motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance number 3013 of 2025, further amending and supplementing ordinance 1960 adopted June 30th, 1980, and known as the General Laws of the Township of Haverford authorizing the lease of certain township grounds.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board related to this motion? Again, this is a second reading. Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. Mr. Berman, please.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion passes. Board will now consider first reading of ordinance number 3015-2025 regarding traffic. I'll now entertain a motion.
Madam President.
Commissioner Holmes.
So this is ordinance 3015. This is a first reading. It will require a second reading. It is amending the traffic laws. Our agenda does not indicate the subject matter of it, but I will indicate what it is. It is the installation of a stop sign at the top of Rosewood Lane where it intersects with Linden Drive.
Thank you. I've heard a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board?
I don't think you got a second.
Did we get a second?
Second.
I hesitated on that myself. Thank you. Heard a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
No.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes. Motion carries. Board will now consider first reading of ordinance number P3-2025 regarding redistricting. As a reminder to the audience, the board held a public hearing this evening regarding this ordinance. I'll now entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P3-2025, amending Chapter 37, Wards and Precincts, to amend portions of the boundaries of Ward Precincts 3-4 and 4-4, and the ward map to reapportion the township's voting districts to contain nearly equal electors as practicable as officially and finally reported in the 2020 federal decennial census.
Heard a motion. Is there a second?
Decennial, not
Se-
decennial.
Second.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board?
I have a question. During the public hearing, there was concern about the size of the precinct that we're creating. I just wondered if either of the commissioners involved had any comments.
So during the public hearing, there was concern raised about the size of what would be 3-4, and the size would be increased to just under 1,500, giving existing numbers. They vote at the Oakmont School District Administration Building. It would not be considered a large or the largest in the township. It would be third or fourth. It's not to say it wouldn't be a large precinct. And it also, in checking with the county, it's not too large for that. The concern obviously is with the space at the Oakmont School District Administration Building. And we We will, if this passes, reach out to the school district to see if there's additional space within that building that would create some additional room for tables. And we could also look at the issues in terms of precincts moving forward. For this, the concern is really the census numbers and making sure that we're following all the requirements regarding the census and the outline that was stated by our solicitor, Mr. Walco, and the township is following all that. If this passes, it'll be passed on to the county and ultimately the state to approve. And this, for those that have not been following and or didn't see the hearing earlier, essentially what we're trying to do is keep each voting ward within 10% of the mean. Ward 4, because of development, was at 10.6%, and Ward 3, to be accurate, was 6.5, which was below the average. This will help change the portion of Ward 4 that is being shifted to Ward 3 is all contiguous to Ward 3. It's also all blocks are contiguous for the census, and we would recommend that we pass this today to comply.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none.
Sure. Mr. Holmes is asking me if I could just point out that the specific numbers for Ward 3 was 6.5% below the average, and Ward 4 was 10.6 above the average. So this brings both closer together. The average population of each ward currently is 5,603. The current population of Ward 3 is 5,239. The current population of Ward 4 is 6,198. So Ward 4 is the largest, Ward 3 is the smallest. They happen to neighbor each other, so the shift only impacts a few blocks in Ward 4, and this plan hopefully impacts as few voters as possible.
Thank you for that clarification. Any further questions or comments from my colleagues on this board? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion passes. Now move on to the resolutions portion of our meeting. As a reminder, resolutions only require one reading and affirmative vote. We'll start with resolution number 2445-2025 regarding a Comcast cable franchise fee renewal. I will entertain a motion now.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2445, 2025, authorizing execution of a cable franchise agreement between the Township and Comcast of Pennsylvania, LLC.
Second.
A motion and a second. A motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board?
Just for the public, we were given a presentation at our work session last Monday from council explaining the benefits of this new agreement and his recommendation that we execute it.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
I would just point out that one of the benefits to our residents from this agreement is it does, based on the presentation that we already received, does tighten up the language of requiring Comcast to address things such as hanging wires and basically maintaining their property in our township. It gives more strength to us being able to hold them responsible.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing no further comments, we'll proceed to a vote. Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondek.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Now entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2446-2025 regarding the township's support of Ukraine.
Ms. President,
Yes, Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
motion to adopt resolution number 2446-2025, establishing Haverford Township support of the people of Ukraine and their democratically elected government and condemning Russia's war against them. I would also like to read into the record the resolution, since there were 2 adjustments to the resolution to remove personal names and substitute titles.
Very well, thank you.
Whereas it is the duty of citizens in every democracy to stand up for the cause of democracy and to stand against those who threaten the human and democratic rights of others. And whereas Ukraine is a sovereign and independent nation with the right to self-determination. And whereas Russia functions as an autocratic nation in which the president possesses ultimate power over all other branches of government and has, during 25 years in office, increasingly suppressed dissent and interfered through military violence, cyber warfare, and election manipulation. And whereas Russia, through its invasion of Ukraine, attacked a sovereign and independent democratic nation without provocation. And whereas Russia's war on Ukraine is causing massive loss of civilian life and subjecting the people of Ukraine to grievous violence and suffering, already driving more than 2 million Ukrainians thus far to flee the country, and generating a humanitarian crisis of staggering scale for Ukraine and all of Europe. And whereas the people of Ukraine have inspired people around the world with their courage, conviction, and fearless advocacy for democracy, even amid the Russian onslaught. And whereas we join those in communities, towns, and cities across Europe, the United States, and around the world who are gathering to protest the war and to support the people of Ukraine in any way they can. Whereas Pennsylvania is home to over 100,000 Ukrainian Americans and to millions who care deeply for and stand strongly in support of the Ukrainian people. And whereas on March 14th, 2022, the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners issued Resolution Number 2258-2022, Haverford stands alongside Ukraine. Now therefore be it resolved, we, the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners, again affirm our condemnation of Russia's war on Ukraine and the resulting loss of life, suffering, economic, physical, and environmental devastation. Be it further resolved, we join with all those demanding that Russia end its war on Ukraine, withdraw its forces, and unilaterally commit to respecting Ukraine's territorial integrity and allow Ukraine to continue its chosen path as a sovereign and independent democracy. Be it further resolved, we urge the government of the United States to call upon Russia to uphold its obligations as a member of the international community and its commitments and cease its attack on Ukraine. Be it further resolved, we express our unequivocal support for the people of Ukraine and their right to self-determination and to life without threat to their freedom, territorial integrity, or independence. Be it further resolved that the Township Manager of Haverford Township will cause a copy of this resolution to be sent to the President of the United States, the Senate Majority Leader, the Speaker of the House, the Governor of Pennsylvania, the President of Pennsylvania's Senate, and the Speaker of the House of Pennsylvania's General Assembly.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the board regarding this resolution?
In light of comments that were made during the public session of this meeting, I would motion to table this motion. I apologize, table this resolution till April.
I'll second that.
The table. There's a motion to table. All those in favor of tabling, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? In light of that, I think we proceed. So with that, any further questions or comments?
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. McCollum, Commissioner McCollum.
Well, while I do agree with denouncing violence regarding this conflict between Ukraine and Russia, I cannot support this resolution with a yes vote. This step was already taken back in March of 2022. The virtue signaling has no place in local Haverford Township Board of Commissioners meetings or discussions. I was elected to serve the people of Haverford Township and to assist the administration of this township in serving the community with the daily operation of our township government. I was not elected to get involved in national, federal, and international conflicts and issues. I feel the township commissioners should stick to local business and politics.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from my colleagues?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
I too will be voting against this as well, but I would just like to explain why. When I ran for office, I told the residents I was here to solve the local issues. When I first got involved in local politics, I enjoyed it because we were solving local issues and not the issues that we can't control. I believe everyone on this board has a right for their voice to be heard. We have a time at the end of the meeting where we can all share our personal views, or we can send a letter to our leaders on behalf of ourselves. I am for peace in Ukraine and throughout the world, and I will continue to pray for that outcome each and every week at Mass.
Thank you. Are there further questions or comments?
Yeah, Madam President.
Yes, Commissioner Forster-Grapp.
Some people would say that our Board of Commissioners should not consider passing a resolution in support of a country far away from Haverford Township. That the duty of commissioners is to work only on local issues, such as getting baseball and softball fields ready for the spring season, which we already feel, collecting the garbage and recycling, repairing the sewers and streets, and so much more that helps make our township a great place to live. Each of the commissioners sitting before you was elected to represent their wards and make decisions to protect the well-being and stability and growth of our community so our neighbors can enjoy a safe and nurturing environment. The votes we take here as a board are only possible because our constituents exercise their right to vote in free and fair elections. The right of the people to vote and decide who will govern them is sacred. It is the foundation of democracy. When the right of a people to vote and determine who will be their leaders is threatened, that is a threat to democracy everywhere. If the Board of Commissioners of another town tried to annex Haverford Township, we would be rightly outraged and defend our township's autonomy and independence. Ukraine is being invaded by another country. They are fighting to protect their independence and democracy. Therefore, I believe that even though Ukraine is far away, their fight to defend their right to self-determination and self-governance is also our fight here in Haverford Township. The threat to Ukraine's democracy is a threat to every democratically elected governing body, even one so small as Haverford Township. For these reasons, I am putting forth this resolution as an affirmation of the ideals upon which our country is based and upon which Ukraine's democracy is based. All democracies stand together. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or comments?
Madam President.
Yes, Commissioner Holmes.
If people will indulge me, I'm just going to walk through our agenda for a minute, and not specific items, but the classifications of our items. Obviously, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We then have proclamations where we as a board herald something or somebody. This time it was Women's History Month. Last year it was Teacher of the Year here in Haverford Township. Sometimes it's our young people who become Eagle Scouts or otherwise distinguish themselves. And we do that through a proclamation. That proclamation is just simply us praising them. We as a body praising those people. We then have approval of warrants where we as a board have to spend the money in the township. We then have appointments to the various bodies that assist us in advising us in what we do. We then have ordinances, which are the laws of the township. They bind everybody in the township, and we are empowered by our constituents and by our voters with that power and that responsibility to pass ordinances that binds everybody. We also can pass resolutions. Resolutions don't bind the people of Haverford Township. They are an action taken by this board as a separate existing board that has its own power, has its own influence, has its own ability to enter into contracts, which is something else we do in these meetings. And as a board, we have a power that has been granted to us by our constituents to act as a body, and frankly, we as a body have a greater impact than I, as just somebody who lives on Chestnut Avenue, would have when it comes to writing a letter to the governor, writing a letter to the White House, writing a letter to the UN. And 20 years ago, when I ran for this office, I recognized that by asking people to count on me as a leader and to entrust in me these various powers that you entrust to us commissioners, that I would exercise those individual powers in their individual ways in the best way that I could. We as a board are capable of commenting on this and saying something about this, about what's happening in Ukraine. And yes, we did this 3 years ago. But yes, just 1 week ago, things took such a dramatically bad turn in this that it compels a number of us on this board to exercise that power we have as a board to speak about it and to say what we think. Not everybody in this township may agree with it. In fact, not everybody on this board will agree with it. But so long as a majority of this board believes that something is worth commenting on and acting, and our act consists of writing a letter and alerting the people that we think may have some control over this, then that's a power we're going to exercise, and it's a power we're going to exercise freely. I can't take questions at this point, but I will stick around and answer anything you'd like after the meeting. So it's very important, Madam President, for people to understand what is the purpose of a resolution, what is the effect of the resolution, and frankly, why do I think these resolutions are important? Ms. Amder, humorously said we can chew gum and walk at the same time. Everything we do is significantly more important than chewing gum or just walking. Each of the steps we take tonight at this meeting are all very important steps that we take after thinking about them, after evaluating them, after being advised by our township staff, after listening to our constituents, and after listening to our own consciences. So we take this very seriously, so I'm not going to say that I'm capable of chewing gum and walking at the same time. I'm going to say that I'm capable of being a commissioner and looking out for the people of this township and caring about everything that matters for everybody in this township, and at the same time recognizing the chance that I have as an elected official to try to do something to change a terrible situation in this world. And that's why I support this. That's why we as a board take actions like this. And it's why actions like this do not distract us from or prevent us from doing the things that we do every meeting and every day in between the meetings, which is care about and run the operations of this township. So I just wanted to explain that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments regarding this resolution?
Madam President, if I may,
Commissioner Gada.
this resolution is troubling to me as an issue before this board. And I've kind of gone back and forth over it. And what I'll say is this, is that the words on the paper, the concept of the resolution itself is something that I support. I support Ukraine. I do not support Russia in this endeavor. I do support Ukraine. And when I look at the words on the paper as they are written, I do not find any words on that paper to be objectionable to me, and I believe that I can fairly say that I believe in all of the words as they are stated. However, I do take issue with the concept of the resolution and its timing in light of the fact that I really feel that it is unnecessarily controversial at this point in time. I say that because, in my opinion, regardless of the intention of the party that put forward this resolution, that this resolution will be viewed by Republicans and Democrats as either a repudiation or an attempted repudiation of the President of the United States and the current policy of our federal government. And I feel that in an already heightened politically charged climate that this stoking of the fire at this point in time is unnecessary. And so I go back and I have to decide what direction I'm going to go in here. And so I'm going to take the direction of the luxury of being a commissioner. And I'm going to cast my vote based on the words of this resolution because I do believe in the words as they are stated. But I will use my voice up here as a commissioner for my ward in the township to state my opposition and basically my protest to this particular resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Gondik. Any further questions or comments?
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Hart.
typically I would agree. I don't like to mix national politics with our local government, but this seems to be such a fundamental issue that in this case, I feel like I definitely need to support this. I mean, my uncles fought in World War II. It was for democracy, defeating fascism. And that's what I see happening in Ukraine, is that people in Ukraine are battling fascism. And I think our little bit of support, it's all we can offer. But I am firmly in support of the resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Any further questions or comments?
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Holmes.
I know I had the floor once before, if I just can. The Declaration of Independence was brought up earlier today. So let me read the first paragraph for everybody here. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. The first act of our independence was a declaration, like a letter, like a resolution. And it didn't ask for the opinions of Great Britain. It asked for the opinions of mankind. And so I'm thrilled that the Declaration of Independence was brought up earlier, because get a chance once a year to hear them read it aloud on NPR, and it is a reminder to us that what we do is about respect for the opinions of mankind, and not just for Haverford Township or Lower Merion or our closest neighbors. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Holmes.
Yes, and I have one quick thing to say. And
Commissioner Quinn.
I just bring this up on the wording. I get what it means, but Commissioner Holmes, you brought up that us as a board don't speak for the whole township and stuff, but the wording of this says township support of Ukraine, and in a way that could be an issue where the people could see it as the board speaks for the whole township. And I'm not complaining about the words. I'm just trying to bring something to your attention.
No, I appreciate your point, and I looked at this beforehand, and it just so do be aware, Commissioner Quinn, the resolution itself now therefore be it resolved. We, the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners, we identify ourselves, and I believe we always do in our resolutions, as the board and not as the Township of Haverford. And so I think that is a distinction that makes a difference, and it's certainly a distinction. It is certainly worth noting in this resolution that this is a resolution of our board. And that's what all of our resolutions are supposed to be, as a resolution of this board as a standalone entity.
I just wanted to clarify.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Hearing no further comments, we'll proceed with a vote. Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forstey-Grupp.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
No.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
No.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I now move on to stipulations and agreements. I'll entertain a motion related to the police pension plan, service-connected disability pension.
Motion to ratify a service-connected disability pension from the police pension plan effective March 1st, 2025.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the board regarding this matter? Hearing none, we'll proceed with a vote. Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum. Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion passes. I'll now entertain a motion related to 3 tax assessment appeals.
Motion to approve the following settlements and stipulations of council in the matter of owner-initiated property tax assessment appeals for a property located at 45 Decatur Road, for a property located at 111 Carnarvon Lane, for a property located at 511 Cathmere Road.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the board regarding this matter? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes. We now move on to contract awards. I'll entertain a motion for the first contract.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner McCollum.
Ebenezio Contractors Incorporated, emergency sanitary and storm sewer repair contract in the amount of 2 years. Motion to approve a unit price contract in the amount of $947,900 based on estimated quantities for emergency sewer repairs to N. Abenezio Contractors, Inc., having the lowest responsible and responsive bid.
Second.
Heard a motion and second. The motion's now open for discussion. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the board related to this?
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
at our work session meeting, Commissioner Gondik did point out that N. Abenezio Contractors was the only contractor who could meet our responsible contractor ordinance requirement for apprenticeship programs. And I wanted to just talk about those very, very briefly, just to provide a little bit of context. One of the advantages to having apprenticeship programs as a requirement for responsible contract ordinance, and not just Haverford Townships, is that it provides innovative on-the-job training programs so that people can get the skills they need so that they can get a truly good, solid living wage. It also develops and prepares our future workforce. It is an excellent way for people to get training while they're working on a job site where they're supervised and mentored by other much more experienced workers so that we know that jobs are done well. It is a solid way of transmitting knowledge from one generation to another so that everyone has the skills so that when we hire people, we know that the job is going to be really well done. And so I just wanted to talk just a little bit about why we put that apprenticeship requirement in our ordinance. And I must say that having taught in high school for many years, I know that it takes a lot of time. It takes years for students to acquire the abilities they need. And the same is true for any other of our trades. So I'm really glad that that apprenticeship requirement is in there. So I just wanted to sort of point out sort of the rationale for having that there.
Thank you, Commissioner Forresty Grubb. Any further questions or comments from my colleagues? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
No.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion passes. I'll now entertain a motion to approve a contract for the Oakford Road culvert repairs.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Holmes.
I move we approve a contract for the Oakford Road culvert repairs in the amount of $144,640 to GMB Construction Group, having the lowest responsible and responsive bid.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the board related to this contract? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion passes. I'll now entertain a motion to approve a contract for the necessary roof replacement at the Grange Estate.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Holmes.
I move we approve a contract for the Grange necessary roof replacement project in the amount of $115,050 to Detweiler Roofing, having the lowest responsible and responsive bid.
Second. Heard a motion and a second. Motion's now open for discussion. Any questions or comments from my colleagues on the board regarding this contract? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion passes. I'll now entertain a motion for a contract related to 1 Mill Road final site work for the parking lot.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
motion to approve a contract for 1 Mill Road final site work for the parking lot in the amount of $248,850 to Premier Concrete under the Pennsylvania CoStarz Cooperative Purchasing Program.
Heard a motion and a second. The motion's now open for discussion. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion passes. Now entertain a motion related to a change order.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
motion to approve a change order in the credit amount of $176,000 with Rycon Construction, the general contractor, for the Haverford Township Free Library renovation and expansion project.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. The motion's now open for discussion. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board?
I think it's always good to see a credited amount.
We spend it in a minute.
Thank you, Commissioner Quinn. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes, and just like that, it's spent.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion related to another change order with AJM Electric.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
motion to approve a change order in the amount of $165,915.10, including a no-cost time extension with AJM Electrical, the electrical contractor for the Haverford Township Free Library renovation and expansion project.
Second. I've heard a motion and a second. The motion's now open for discussion. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the board related to this change order? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion related to a change order with Dolan Mechanical.
Madam President,
Yes, Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
motion to approve a no-cost time extension with Dolan Mechanical, the plumbing contractor for the Haverford Township Free Library renovation and expansion project.
Second. Heard a motion and a second. Motion's now open for discussion. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, Motion passes. I will now entertain a motion related to a change order with Dolan Mechanical. Just to distinguish the two, this is for the HVAC.
Madam President,
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
side note, I'm looking forward to the project being done, so I don't have to keep reading these. Motion to approve a no-cost time extension with Dolan Mechanical, the HVAC contractor for the Haverford Township Free Library renovation and expansion project.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. The motion's now open for discussion. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the board related to this change order? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes. Motion carries. I'll now entertain.
President,
Yes, Commissioner Holmes.
just before we move to the stadium, my poor attempt at humor masks how seriously we take these change orders. And for the public who are here tonight or watching tonight but don't watch the work sessions, please be aware our project manager has come to all of our work sessions, has described the various change orders to us. Some of them correspond. Sometimes they are literally the switching of contracts or budgeting from one project to another, so they have a zero sum. All joking aside about we'll spend it in a second, people should understand that this has been carefully vetted. This has been reviewed by our excellent project manager, who has been available for the township staff and us on the township for any questions we have about every step of this project. So I just wanted to make that clear and express my thanks both to our project manager and the whole team working on this, and my fellow commissioners for helping make this happen.
Thank you.
I would add one more thing, that we are still within budget because we haven't spent the contingency fund down, and we are still on track for a library opening in May before summer break begins.
Excellent. Thank you. I'd like to move on now to entertain a motion related to the Scadium project. It's another change order.
Madam President, motion to approve a change order in the amount of $13,925 with SB Conrad, the general contractor for the Haverford Skating renovation project.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. The motion's now open for discussion. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board?
I would just note for anyone who wasn't at the work session that this change order pertains to some flooring for one of the locker rooms.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes. Motion carries. We now move on to the purchases portion of our evening. I'll entertain a motion related to the police duty weapon holster systems.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to award a purchase order in the amount of $18,576.25 for 75 duty holster systems to Alien Gear Holsters, the sole source provider of the equipment.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second. The motion's now open for discussion. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this board? Hearing none, Mr. Berman, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes. Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes, motion passes. We now move on to our continuation of the Citizens Forum, providing an opportunity for members of the public who wish to address the board. Kindly ask that you keep to 3 minutes to provide your comments during that time and ask any questions that you might have. Commissioners will have the opportunity to respond after. And yes, Mr. Lee, I can tell you're excited, so come on up.
Hi, my name's Michael Lee. I'm a Haverford Township resident. My question before was a procedure question. And the reason why I asked to have the vote on the resolution postponed to next month was because it wasn't on the working group agenda. It came up Commissioner Foster-Grupp mentioned it. It wasn't there. The text of the document wasn't there. And it seems as though you have an obligation to us. We have the right to review this information before the meeting. It came out today. That's the first time we saw it. And I did read what Commissioner Holmes said, that it did say Board of Commissioners. But it's something that residents have a right to talk to their commissioners about. And that's what that point of order was mentioned a couple of times. So, whereas even if we agree with you, it should be followed the proper order. And I don't think it was. And then this second, you can tell me, correct me if I'm wrong. The second thing is that's why I was asking for monthly board meetings again, because that way we have back and forth with you guys. Right now, it seems like you just go off in a room and make a bunch of decisions. We don't hear about it. So the working group meeting is really important, and having the information out there for us to see is really important. Anyway.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Ms. Hall.
Good evening, and thanks for taking a few moments. Jane Hall, Haverford Township. I really had no intention of speaking tonight, but I'm stunned, and I'm saddened. And I just have to come up here and tell you that first and foremost, I'd like to thank Liz for speaking up for Women's History Month. It's so important to remind all of us how far we've come, how long it took, the strength that it took, and the courage that it will continue to take to save our country. Commissioner Forster-Grupp, I'd like to thank you for those. That resolution was eloquently written, and it was beautiful. And Commissioner Holmes, I really appreciate your explanation, and also always calling upon our founding fathers to remind us of how we're here and why we're here. I'd like to tell all of you tonight that I had the very sad and heartbreaking moment a week ago, almost 10 days ago, about my son-in-law is Ukrainian. He fled when he was at the age of 14. His parents' jobs were taken. His home was taken. He came to the United States and he became an attorney. He's been awarded constitutional law awards of the highest. I was with him. He cried when he saw what happened in the Oval Office. It broke my heart. I stand here before you tonight. I'm stunned that you would argue against a resolution supporting the people of Ukraine. I'm stunned. We are Americans. All of us are Americans. We're here because of people that fought for us. I can stand before you tonight because of people that fought for us to have the freedom to do that. And I'm stunned. And I thank you for writing the resolution. We have an obligation as a board, an elected board of commissioners, to be part of the United States of America and stand up for what we believe in. And you stand before your Ukrainian family member and tell them that this is the America that they came to for freedom. I was heartbroken, and I am heartbroken tonight. And I will tell you, thank you. Thank you for doing this resolution. It means everything to so many people that cannot speak. So I appreciate it. I really, from the bottom of my heart. And Liz, I really tell your mother how much I appreciate everything that she wrote. My daughters are successful women in this country because of everything that everyone has fought for. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you. Mustafa?
Hi there. My name is Melissa Raffel. I'm a 7th Ward resident. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the board for 2 of your important actions tonight. First, I appreciate your adoption of a resolution supporting the people of Ukraine. At a time when so many people are facing hardship and uncertainty, it's meaningful to see our local government stand in solidarity with those affected. Your willingness to acknowledge and support the Ukrainian people sends a powerful message of compassion. I also want to express my gratitude for your proclamation in honor of Women's History Month. Recognizing the contributions of women past and present is essential in fostering a more inclusive and equitable community. By highlighting these achievements, you helped ensure that the stories and impact of women continue to inspire future generations. Thank you so much for your leadership on these issues and your time this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Raffel. Further comments on Mr. Hall?
Todd Hall, Second Ward. On the general subject of resolutions, one of the issues that can arise out of this is issues are passed about certain issues and not others. The entire world is full of strife, war, violence. Now we get into why are we passing a resolution about this, but not about that. On the subject of Women's History Month, I thank the public commenters for their speeches. There was a lot of progress that had to be made. There's been a lot of change, all for good. In 1999, Man, I Feel Like a Woman was a pop song by Shania Twain. Now a man can say, I feel like a woman, and become a woman, which I think weakens and negates all the progress that was made. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any further comments on the left-hand side? No, I'll move on to the right-hand side. All right, thank you. Oh. Major.
Major Peterson, United States Army, retired, 4th Ward. This was reported in Foreign Policy magazine, 17 November 2023. Last week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that the country's presidential elections that in peacetime would be expected next March, that's 2024, will not be taking place while Ukraine remains under martial law and is in a state of war with Russia. Now, we talk about democracy in the proclamation. Democracy, what is that? It's mob rule. Mob rule, democracy. That's why we're a republic in this country and not a democracy. So I think listing democracy in the proclamation in which the president has declared we're not going to have presidential elections because of martial law, I think that negates the entire concept of democracy. Furthermore, we have a president now, the 47th president. I'm sure many of our commissioners might object if the current president decided, due to martial law, we won't have elections, presidential elections in 2028. I'm sure some of you would be rather upset about that. And yet there's no upsetness with Vladimir Zelensky's proclamation that he's not going to hold elections in 2024. And God only knows when his next election will be. Thank you.
Thank you. No back and forth, please. Thank you. We have to maintain decorum here, please. Any further questions or comments from the public? All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to my colleagues on the board for any responses or remarks regarding the matters raised during the Citizens Forum.
Madam President.
Yes, Commissioner.
Comment on the, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Ms. Hall, just Jane Hall. I just want to be clear, when I made my rebuttal, I am completely against this war, conflict. I am a product of veterans. My father was a Vietnam vet. My grandfather was a World War vet. I sympathize completely with your son-in-law. It's horrible. But in my opinion, it's not what I was elected to do.
Thank you.
And I too would like to say to Commissioner Hall, thank you for your service to our community for all those years too. But I feel the same way. I was elected to do this job, And that was just the thing that I felt for all these years. I will fight for peace in Ukraine. That's what I pray for every week at church and will continue. So I just want you to know, and I pray for your son-in-law too.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Just make a point of clarification that the resolution was on the township website as of Thursday afternoon and it was public online. We're not going to do back and forth, but that is my point of distinction. Thank you. We can talk about it after the meeting. Thank you. We'll now move on to new business. Are there any matters that my colleagues would like to bring before the board for discussion at this point? Hearing none, we'll move on to the other business portion of our meeting, during which commissioners may make their final remarks. We'll start with Commissioner Gondek.
I'll keep it short. The weather seems to be warming up. I hope it continues to go in that direction. I'm done with the winter. For any of those who will be celebrating St. Patrick's Day this weekend, enjoy, but please be responsible. And other than that, I'll see everyone soon.
Thank you. Commissioner Forster-Grupp.
This was an important night where there were a lot of comments and people expressed their views, and we did it respectfully and we listened to each other. And I think that is one of the very important things that make Haverford Township a good place to live, because we do hear each other. I do hear what my colleagues say. I appreciate their perspectives. I appreciate the honesty we all bring to the board. And I appreciate the honesty that you, the citizens, bring to our meetings. And I'm new enough to the board. I don't remember monthly commissioner meetings as was described. And I'm happy to discuss that more later. But I remind everyone that the emails and the phone numbers of every commissioner sitting up here is available on the website. And I know I, for one, do like hearing from the folks in Ward 2 and beyond. And I encourage you all to reach out to your commissioners, because we really do care what you think. And we are the level of government that you have direct access to every single day. Because when I'm walking my beagle twice a day or more, I meet my neighbors and they tell me what they're thinking about. And it is a lovely thing. So I hope that you have an opportunity to enjoy the warmth and the sunshine, because I think we all need to look up to the sky and see that this world is a really good place and there are good people living in it here in Haverford Township. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Forster-Grupp. Commissioner Cavender.
Thank you. I just want to make a couple of announcements. One, the driveway at Polo Field is being widened and paved currently. That is expected to take a few weeks, and then it will be safer. There were some trees taken out. Those trees will be replaced in Polo Field as time continues. I also want to make a quick announcement on behalf of the EAC. If you are interested in have a rain garden in your yard, they're currently scheduling assessments through March 30th to select up to 5 late spring rain garden recipients. Rain gardens reduce stream pollution and flooding, and they house native plants that support butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds and others. If you are interested in this, you can email havaraingarden@gmail.com. That's HAVARAINGARDEN, or reach out to the EAC and they can tell you more. I also just, I didn't comment during our discussion of the resolution on Ukraine, and that's because I feel that a lot of what's important was stated by my colleagues who voted in support of the resolution. A couple of things that stand out to me when I support something like this, in particular the invasion of Ukraine, is that Ukraine is a European country that has been invaded by an autocratic regime. That it's just not a question to me that I would stand up in support of those people. Not just because I have neighbors who are of Ukrainian descent, who have family there, who have been fighting, week after week, month after month, going to Washington, D.C., lobbying, fundraising, so that they can protect their families in Ukraine who, before this, had thriving, independent lives in this wonderful, productive country that is a democracy. The reason that Ukraine was under martial law is because their country was invaded. And he's a widely supported president, Zelensky. And I was, I've appreciated his bravery in the face of a really brutal war and invasion over the last 3 years. So I appreciate our opportunity to show compassion. Again, it's a statement. It's something that we can say as a board, but we do have that freedom to speak and to show that compassion, and it costs no one anything. It allowed us to have a good conversation in which we didn't have to agree up here, and to hear from residents, and I appreciated that as well. So to me, the resolution it's not virtue signaling, it's not a waste of time. It's about people. It's about people seeing other people and saying, we support you. And I will always support the people of Ukraine and send my prayers. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavender. Commissioner Holmes.
Thank you. Quick announcement: as our township manager indicated, there is a construction project of some emergent nature in the 6th Ward, right on the bus route. So for all my neighbors in the Chestnut Wald area, please forgive us this work right now. It does need to be done as quickly as possible, so it may go into the evenings. But I can assure you they're working as fast as possible. Also, as Commissioner Gondik indicated, the nice weather is coming, which is a reminder to all of us. Everybody has come out of their basements and they're away from their PlayStations, and they're starting to go back into their yards and in their parks and throw baseballs and chase things into the street. So everybody, be careful driving this spring. We have been more pent up than usual in our homes, which means we will probably have a lot more kids blowing off a lot more steam. And there is no resource in this township more special, more precious, or more important to our future than our children. One last thing, a quick history lesson, and I swear I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. For anybody who studied World War II, there's a famous battle of Midway. Midway was a significant naval victory after the Doolittle raids and after Pearl Harbor. There is all sorts of stories of heroism. But one such story is the Torpedo 8 Squadron, who left the USS Hornet and attacked a couple Japanese carriers. They attacked the carriers without any fighter cover, which was really amounted to a suicidal act. And as the word suggests, 29 of the 30 brave crew members who were that squadron all perished, and not one of their torpedoes was able to hit their mark. One person survived, ditching his plane into the ocean, and then survived the battle and watched it unfold literally from the water, hanging onto a life jacket, but not inflating his inflatable raft because of stories that the Japanese were shooting anybody in rafts that were in the water. He chose simply to hold on to a cushion. And for the next almost entire day was in the Pacific Ocean and watching this battle unfold. I tell everybody now, look up that story and look it up now, because that aviator's name was George Gay. And where we're headed right now is that it is entirely possible within the next several months that any reference to Aviator Gay will be wiped clean, along with the Enola Gay and any of the other things that are misidentified as DEI in this quest right now to purge our history of the contributions of very important Americans, no matter what their stripes were, no matter who they are, no matter who they love. So I just want to remind everybody of that lesson. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Holmes. Commissioner Quinn.
I have a few quick things to say. The Kevin Kane run will be on April 6th, and if you'd like to learn more about that, you can go to kevinkane.org to learn more. It'll be a race that runs through the best ward in of the town, which is the seventh ward, and the next best, the 8th ward. So it runs through those wards. And St. Patrick's Day is about to be here, and I know a few of us on this board, and maybe a few of you out there. I know you guys will be having a drink or two, so I would urge you guys to Uber, Lyft, walk, do all that you can to keep our police not having to stop you or to take you into jail, or have your kids pick you up. That could be good too. And one more quick thing I wanted to say, and I think I said this last year too. When I turned 18 back in 03, which I'm sure you guys think I'm older than that, but I decided it was important to come to these meetings, and ever since then I have been. And the cool thing about that year, when I walked in there were 3 women on this board then, and there's 3 women again. So I'm honored to serve with you, and I know that Jane served during in between that time and stuff. But I just wanted to thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Commissioner Hart.
It's 5 years ago this month was the start of the pandemic in the States. I remember being in an emergency meeting that we called and saying, oh, this probably will last at least 2 or 3 months. So it's quite the underestimate. Don't look to me for my opinions in the future. Over 100,000 Pennsylvanians died from the COVID-19, 4,000 of them in Delaware County. We came out of the pandemic in large part as the result of a vaccine that, while it didn't offer complete protection, significantly lessened the risk of severe disease, and continues to, for those at risk, continues to lower the risk. And to bring up vaccines, there is a measles outbreak. It's in the Southwest at the time. There are just scattered cases in Pennsylvania, but it is a good time for individuals to check if they or their kids, whether they're protected, because while it will not be comparable to COVID-19, measles can be a very severe illness. So I would encourage you to check your vaccine status. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Commissioner McCollum.
Just 2 quick things. Just reiterate what Township Manager Dave Berman mentioned earlier this evening about the shredding event, which is Saturday, March 29th here on the property from 8 to 11, but based on the truck filling up, probably closer to 8 to 10. And then the week prior to that, we have the large e-waste event from 9 to 1 on site here as well. That's all I have.
Thank you.
March 22nd.
Commissioner Murkowski.
Sure. I frequently said up here that when we vote on these decisions or when we push for something, if it benefits the township, I'm concerned with what ward specific it benefits. I think if we make decisions that benefit the township, then we're doing our job. And we talked about the redistricting tonight, and there'll be some residents hopefully in the future here moving from the 4th ward to the 3rd ward. And I will just say to all those residents that are moving, I look forward to serving you. I will have my email and phone open to any questions that you have, and I certainly will do my best to represent your interest, make sure your trash and recycling is getting picked up and all other township services are done. And if nothing else comforts you or my words are not sufficient enough, you're still permitted to subscribe to Commissioner Trombetta's newsletter. So with that, I'm done.
Thank you for the plug. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. I'll just conclude my remarks this evening by saying that, giving a reminder that during last week's work session, I discussed a plan to incorporate consent agendas into the township's meeting agendas, and I really just wanted to mention it again so the public becomes fully aware. Just as a reminder, consent agenda is a streamlined method for approving routine, non-controversial items into a single motion rather than addressing each individually. This approach helps to improve meeting efficiency by allowing the board to focus more time on complex or high-priority discussions while still ensuring full transparency. Items on the consent agenda, such as meeting minutes, standard contracts, and routine approvals, are provided to commissioners and to the public in advance, allowing for review before the meeting. Any commissioner can request to remove an item for separate discussion if needed, maintaining accountability while keeping the meeting flow productive and focused on substantive issues. Many local municipalities and nonprofit boards already use consent agendas, and I look forward to implementing that this April. Again, at any point, if we decide that it's not working for our township, for our board, and for our constituents, we can always revert back, but I look forward to trying it. And with that, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.